Welcome to Stunner Stage. Today's podcast is with kind of one of my all-time favorite Minnesota musicians, someone I looked up to, Mr. Scott Yauch. So what I usually do at the beginning of these is I ask when and how far back can you remember? When did music speak to you? When was it like all consuming and your thing?
Well, we're going to be going way back then because I really didn't even know music, when I was younger until, I had older brothers and sisters, and my oldest sister, Sherry, I think I started listening because I didn't have 45s. I didn't have nothing. I didn't even have a transistor radio.
Oh, all right.
And I'd go babysit for my oldest sister, my niece, Tawny, and whatever my sister had was what I was going to listen to. She had, whatever, LPs, 8 tracks, and she was into old Chicago, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, mainly Chicago.
Okay.
I'd slap the headphones on over at her house. Her and my brother-in-law would leave.
Yeah.
And as soon as they were gone, headphones in, boom.
So you had an interest in music. It wasn't like when she left, you turned on the TV.
Yeah.
You were like, let's raid the record
Yeah,
collection.
but there wasn't really anything that I really was into.
Gotcha.
I just kind of latched onto what she was listening to, and I liked it. The big horns with Chicago, and
Yep.
It was just cool.
How old were you then?
I had to be, old enough to watch Another Child.
Like 12, 13?
Yeah, maybe.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, maybe 5th, 6th grade, maybe 6th grade or something.
Okay. All right.
They'd have record day in elementary school sometimes where you could bring your 45s in and the teacher would crack out the record player.
Yeah, the little kid one, the almost Fisher-Price one.
Yeah. And I seemed to be the guy that would show up with the majority of the 45s.
You got those from your sister?
And I commandeered. I'd have like a, maybe a little half stack of 45s and whatever.
What were the 45s of?
Chicago and just stuff that they had bought in 45s of. And I'd bring that in and I'd commandeer none of the other kids just sat back and listened to whatever.
Now, did you guys have music class in school where you got to do an instrument or any of that stuff?
I think that kind of started for me, I think in probably like junior high. I think we had chorus class where I wasn't the best student. I didn't take really any knowledge of anything.
Okay.
So
you were into sports though. You were big in sports.
Yeah, I was a jock.
Yeah. And goalie, right?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I played hockey, and I think in 6th grade, so it had to be around 75. I'm thinking. I can't get my years in what grade I was in.
Oh, believe me.
I know we had a hockey practice up at Eastview, and we went over to a kid named Jeff Ball's house after practice, and I don't know if his parents weren't home or whatever. We went downstairs and he pulls out Kiss Alive and puts it on the turntable. And I listened, but the album itself, I was just like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
What is this? This is like from another world.
Yeah.
Are these guys real? And I was blown away. And from that day on, Kiss was everything. Everything.
Wow. Okay.
I think it was 6th grade when I really latched on to Kiss, 75. Okay. So it was right after Kiss Alive came out. But everything after that, like in junior high, you got whatever pottery class or art class, everything, or plastics class or whatever. I'm making a Kiss
logo.
Everything was Kiss.
Everything was Kiss logo.
Yeah.
On the book and everything.
Yeah.
Writing the logo down.
Yeah.
All right. So Kiss really launched it for you.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever want to play an instrument, or did you always sing? Because you were in chorus class, whatever.
I wanted to play the drums really bad.
Okay.
And begged my mom to buy me a drum set. My dad wasn't buying it.
Yeah.
Dads are smart that way. They're like, drums. I'm gonna buy you something that makes a lot of noise. No, we're not doing that. My mom's like, well, gotta get him some drums. So I don't even know what it was. A 3-piece. Had a snare, one ride tom, kick drum. I didn't even have a hi-hat, and it had like one little crash cymbal, I think. So it was like $100 at, I don't even know where we got it. Torps, maybe? I don't know.
Most of the time, like what I'm finding out is everybody, including me, it was always out of the Montgomery Ward's catalog, Sears catalog, or something like that. It was the cheapest thing you could get, but everyone catalog shopped.
What was their brand? They had some.
Mine was Harmony. I had a Harmony guitar. That was my thing.
Yeah.
Later on, I upgraded to a Cort Les Paul.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, until Ross, we'll get there. But Ross introduced me to like real guitars.
Yeah.
Back in then. So Kiss sparked it. You were playing hockey. You were all into sports. Did you quit sports and just go headlong into music? Or
sports kind of after when the Kiss thing happened, it was just like sport. I still liked playing, competing. I played baseball, football, hockey. Really loved hockey.
Back when you can afford all three.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that now.
There's not much to afford. As long as you got a glove, they'll supply you with the uniform.
Okay.
But hockey was a big ticket for my parents. They playing goalie, goalie pads, the chest protector, both gloves. I was getting some pretty shoddy stuff,
Before secondhand sports came in. Yeah.
Sports kind of, I still played up into high school. I played, I think, B squad baseball. But by then my hair was getting a little longer. So the coach who was Mr. Kimmel, you probably remember Mr. Kimmel at Harding. He was probably still the baseball coach when you went.
I didn't go baseball though.
Him and his son, we were good friends. They lived like 2 blocks from us. But and my oldest brother Dave was a really good pitcher at Harding. So Mr. Kimmel knew me through my brother. They used to call my brother the Wizard. Okay. He was valedictorian also at Harding in 1969.
Wow,
or something.
So academic and jock.
Yeah, so the brains of the Yauch family got cut off after my brother.
It's the Chicago.
Yeah.
It's the Chicago did it. So then sports, Kiss kind of lit your musical fire. When did you decide that it was going to be you in a real band, not just like pretending in your room kind of thing?
Well, so I was doing the drum. I got the drum set, and I was dinking around with some neighborhood kids, Mike Wesley and Scott McKenna, who I played on the hockey team with. They both had guitars. So, when you're young, usually your first band, you're missing something in the band.
Oh, yeah.
You might be missing the guitar player. It could be bass and drums and a singer. Yeah.
Right.
So we had 2 guitar players and a drummer. And Mike Wesley sang a little bit. I think we had like 2 songs that we did.
Were you doing covers? Did you write something?
No, we didn't dabble in. I think we had 2 songs that we played. It was something by the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
Which I don't care for, never have.
Right. Yeah. But it was music. And you were playing it.
Yeah. So the drum, so we were, we'd just get together and jam, whatever. And the drum thing, as I got older, they had Performing Arts Learning Center at I don't know if I was still in junior high or Harding or whatever. Anyhow, I went to Performing Arts Learning Center over on Holly and Grotto, which was actually the first, the one they have at Central.
Yep.
The one that spawned.
Yep.
Came from I think it was an old church or something.
And now I think it's Rudy Perpich way over in Minneapolis now. But
yeah.
I think it did start.
Yeah.
Over on Grotto there.
Yeah. So I went there, and I try to explain to people, what it seemed like to me now. To me, it seemed like Fame, you know, the show, TV show Fame,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where all these talented kids, you know, that could dance and act, and you know,
Yeah.
all these kids came together at this performing arts learning center. Some danced, some, you know, they were musicians, and some wanted to be thespians or whatever.
Was this like an after school thing, or was it like instead of junior high you went there?
I think we went there in the afternoon for like a couple hours. It might have been like an afternoon. You know, you did your math, your history, and your required classes, and then you got to go fuck off at. Can I say that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you got to go to that, and so there was a lot of musicians there. I mean, 4, 5, 6 drummers, guitar, just everything.
Right.
And I could keep a beat until I got there and saw guys that could keep a beat, and then I was going, ooh. Yeah.
So like me, growing up, I loved guitar. I wanted to be a guitar player. When I was like 13, I got my first guitar, the harmony guitar I talked about. And then I met Wally Borgen.
Yeah.
And Wally had already taken like 6, 7, 8 lessons from Todd Salmonson. So he was good.
Yeah.
I was not. And I kind of went, well, I'll just put this down. Is that kind of how you felt when you went in there?
Doesn't it seem like some guys have to work to be good?
Yeah.
And other guys, you just look at them and want to punch them in the fucking face.
Well, what I'm noticing too is like I was talking to a buddy of mine the other week, and he saw that talent and wanted that. I saw that talent and went,
seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, he ran right in.
Yeah.
I looked for another avenue to get there. It sounds like when you started seeing those drummers, maybe you looked for another avenue to get there.
I don't know how the singing thing. It almost got forced on. It's like, you ain't no drummer, dude. You either play the tambourine or, you know, triangle. What?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's gonna be, but it ain't gonna be drummer. I met Tommy Alcides.
Okay.
From Paradox.
Yeah.
I met him there, and Tommy back then was way better than me.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm not a drummer.
So then when did it shift where you said, okay, I'm not going to do this, but I can do this?
I think at the end of the year at this Performing Arts Learning Center, I think they did a show, you know, where the dancers came out and did a little routine, and then all the musicians, there were so many musicians that I think they put together like 2 groups, and that said, okay, you guys are going to figure out what you're going to do,
mm-hmm.
arrange it, and do what you're going to do. And I was on the outs, you know, I mean, we had the drummers, and I think they said, we're going to do Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. And I was like, well, I'll try that. I'll sing that.
Okay.
And I didn't even know the words. I mean, as you know, John, being around me, I don't know a lot of the words to the songs that I sing. I'll make shit up.
3rd verse, same as the first. 2nd verse,
how it goes.
Pretty close to the first.
I could have been probably one of the laziest musicians around.
I wouldn't go that far. So if you're singing Zeppelin and you're not even a singer, how did that go?
It went pretty well. I lived next door to a kid named Don Lynch, and when we were younger, probably 6, you know, elementary school.
Okay.
He had a cassette player, you know, so we'd jack around, you know, we'd go in his basement and we'd play some music or something or whatever, and we'd record, you know, whatever. We'd talk and just make jokes or whatever. And it was fun to record something and then listen back to yourself.
So he had one of those like 80s boom boxes, but it was a recorder.
Oh, he had like the small, like Panasonic. It was probably no bigger than. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like they'd use for dictation back in the day. Just hit the 2 button, record and play. And
so he'd play an Elton John record or something, and I'd listen to it, and I'd kind of replicate what I heard. And he had told me really young. He goes, "You're pretty good at that." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you sound like him. You can." So I kind of knew that I could. I mean, even nowadays, I do different voices and
Right.
shit. When
Right. Well, and there's always like the way I look at it too. There's a lot of people out there where you see them and you go, okay, they're singing the song.
Yeah.
But then there's other people that emulate what
Yeah.
the song really is.
Yeah.
Like they almost disappear, and that singer from that song appears.
Yeah.
And I always kind of felt that way with some of the early stuff that I saw the Regime do. And again, we'll get there, but I felt that way with you too. Like you didn't just sing Scott Yauch singing, you tried to sound like that person.
I think that's all I knew. I couldn't wrap it around my brain that you make your own voice. I mean, your voice will only do what your voice can do.
Absolutely.
You can copy and emulate and try to sound as close to the thing. There's guys that will go, well, I'm going to just sing it how I would sing it.
Right.
And for me, I go, well, that's how he sang it. That's how it's supposed to be sung.
Yep.
You know, I wouldn't go, yeah, Elton John, that's really good, but this is how it should be done. You know,
did you think about doing it this way? Elton, come on. Yeah. No, I hear you. I think part of that too might be, you know, some of the reason that tribute bands really started to take off is because, you know, cover bands didn't do it right.
Yeah.
So you try and shift over a little bit.
I guess people could look at me and say, Yauch was always kind of a hater. And I kind of was. I mean, I always looked at things like when we were early in our band, you had to do what you had to do to get out and play the clubs.
Yep.
You know, your manager or your agent would say, you got to play the new Bryan Adams stuff. You gotta get girls dancing.
Yeah.
And when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you're going, okay. And you just do it.
Yeah.
As you get older, you're going, well, I don't want to do that shit. I'd rather, if I'm going to play something, I'd rather play something that, you know, maybe I can put it on, you know, CD or whatever, and I can make the money instead of fucking Bryan Adams making the fucking money, you know?
Well, we just jumped about 5-6 years ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's fine. But I still want to know, like, I only know the Regime, but there were bands before the Regime.
Yeah.
So tell me your first band.
Yeah, I caught, you know, rumblings in school that, you know, so-and-so's got a band. You're like, really? And for me, it was Jim Crea. You know Jim.
Oh, yeah. Know him well.
Plays in Hellion now.
Yep.
And the two Reese brothers, Tim, and you probably know Tony Reese, right?
I do.
Tony played in, I can't remember.
I remember.
Tim and Tony were brothers.
Okay.
And they didn't have, I don't think they had, well, they had a singer, Marty McDonough, but they didn't have a bass player. So, you know, you catch wind. So I was like, I called Jim Crea out of the blue, kind of like you called me. I called Jim out of the, hey, here, you got a band. Yeah. I go, I'd like to come and sing, you know. So he went over and, well, next thing you know, I'm in the band, Crime, in high school.
Yeah.
And now we got two singers, me and Marty, no bass player, two guitar players, and a drummer. And shortly after that, Marty decided, he wasn't really into it. I don't know if, I think he saw the writing on the wall that I was going to take over. And we ended up getting a bass player, Scott Tempest, and it was great. We've played playground, played on a Margaret playground a lot.
Oh,
not a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess for, 15 years old or whatever, how older we were.
How do you play the playground? Like you just went down there, set up and jammed, or was there?
We do like a Halloween thing down. And,
so it was organized.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Or organized for back then was, we don't have a stage, so we're going to take all the lunch tables or whatever and we're not going to stand them up on legs. We're going to stack them, they had 50, 60 of them. So we're going to see that was the stage. They were stacked.
Oh
I got old pictures of it and I'm going, boy, that's super pro.
That was not very OSHA approved, I'm sure, just standing on lunch tables.
They're not breedy rentals.
That's awesome. So Crime did a bunch of covers, and how long did that last?
couple years we played like a talent show at Harding.
Did you win?
I think we kind of got shafted. I think we got the split decision.
Yeah.
I can't remember who I think maybe Tony Bilgen or something, a drummer, he came out and did a drum solo, which is like, well, that's awesome. You're playing by yourself, and how can you screw up? You've got nobody to play with.
It's also the time of the drum solo.
Yeah.
You were rock. You were waiting the whole show for the drum solo. So there you go. All right. So that happened, and then after Crime, I mean, what happened next? How did Crime end?
You catch wind of other guys playing, and you'll go check them out, go over to their house, and see what they're all about and see what they're doing. It's like it seemed like the progression had started for me.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I've always looked at it myself as I don't know how I got as far as I got musically in the business, because I considered myself always the weak link of any band that I was in. But you just gradually you gravitate toward better players, maybe different music that they're playing, maybe some more updated stuff. In Crime, we were doing, oh boy, it was a Rolling Stones, which was, we were doing the Cars, we were doing some Priest, we were doing Aerosmith. It was all over the place. There was we were in no genre. We were,
whatever anyone brought at the table. Yeah. Sure, we'll do it.
So I ended up hooking up with me and the bass player Scott Tempest ended up leaving Crime and hooking up with Jeff Janeski. Jeff.
Yep.
And Bill Morelli and Steve. You probably know Steve Rapp too. He was in Black Eden.
I know of. I never met, but I know of.
Well, it was them three, 2 guitar players and a drummer. And they were just playing some fresher stuff, and they were younger.
What is fresher stuff at that time?
They were starting to do a lot, like some Def Leppard, early Def Leppard.
Yep, like off a High and Dry.
High and Dry, and even the first one, On Through the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just, I was kind of wanted to get away from the Rolling Stones.
So you started feeling a little more of the heavy metal stuff versus the rock stuff.
Definitely.
You had definitely moved on from the Chicago horn section, and you wanted a little more metal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what was that name? What was the band?
That was, I think I might have named it Abductor.
Abductor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a Yauch name.
Yeah, might get you thrown in jail for being an abductor.
An abductor. All right, there you go.
That didn't last long.
Yeah.
I think we did one show at Michael's Bar upstairs. We opened for a band called Another Toy.
Wait. The bar you eventually bought and sold.
Yeah.
Wow. I have played that room as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. Very cool. Okay.
So after that, the hell happened?
You were still in high school at this time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think Steve was going to leave the band. We had no aspirations for really anything.
You're high school kids.
Yeah.
You're just looking for something to do and party and have a good time.
Absolutely. So I think Steve was going to leave the band or move. His parents were going to move and whatever. And so it was all done. So I was without a band.
Okay.
And I heard Crime was doing a keg party over off Johnson Parkway. And I called Jim, or I don't know if Jim caught wind that I wasn't singing with Abductor anymore or whatever. It says, yeah, I think Jim called me and said, hey, we're doing this keg party. Marty Blum's having a keg party over off Johnson Parkway, right by the train bridge.
Yep.
Just north of Maryland. No. 7th Street.
Okay.
Just north of 7th Street.
Yep.
The train bridge.
Yep, I know exactly.
Right by the park, right by Phelan Park.
Right before the Red Owl.
Yeah.
Back then. Yep. Okay.
So he goes, if you want to stop out, he goes, well, you could sing a couple songs. I was like, okay, I got nothing going. So I don't know. I might have rode my 10-speed over there or walked.
Right.
Because I remember it was fall. It was kind of cold. And went over there. They were in a garage. I sang a few songs and was having a beer out in the driveway, and some dude walks up to me, some dude with longer hair than mine, walks up and goes, do you want to sing in a real band? I was like, oh. Gives me his number, Ron Shuna. And that ended up morphing into, me and Ron started playing with guys from the Midway area, the Byland brothers.
Okay.
And that turned into Blitzkrieg.
Okay.
They at the time, I think, were called Deep Freeze. And when I joined, I went over and auditioned.
Yeah.
Ron was already playing with them.
Drums, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I went over, and they were doing even more, they were doing like UFO,
oh, wow.
A lot of Scorpions, which was all new to me. I mean, okay. I had probably heard something by the Scorpions, but I hadn't heard their catalog, and which is, Klaus Meine is that's a different. I mean, when you're trying to sing and you got like thick German shit going on, that's a different deal to sing.
The Scorpions had like a whole different. They had like two entirely different lifetimes.
Absolutely.
I mean, the
their early stuff is really kind of weird.
Very, very hippie.
Very
jammy.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. Good.
Yeah.
But more laid back. Let's get stoned and just chill. And
the Uli Roth stuff.
Yeah. Even with the Schenker and stuff. But then when it got into the Herman Rarebell, turning them into like a heavy metal pop band.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the change.
Well, I think they broke with the Zoo.
Yeah.
Was it the Zoo that broke them? Yeah.
Yep. So I remember that was me, obviously years later, but that's where I knew him. And then when I go back and listen to the early stuff, I'm like, I don't know if I dig this.
Some of the stuff it's very weird.
Mm-hmm.
I not say weird, it's just
different than what you used to.
Yeah.
If you started here and then you hear them there, it's like, what made them change?
You could definitely hear they knew how to craft the song with some not really pop sensibility hook stuff, but kind of a catch. Weird stuff like Robot Man and stuff like that is just kind of
There's some great melody in there. There's some great just overall writing.
Yeah,
but it was definitely a different thing for sure. So you start with the Blitzkrieg stuff, the UFO. I mean that's great. That was cool right from the start. I remember that. So Blitzkrieg did, and so it's all really covers all the way through high school then.
Yep.
Did Blitzkrieg ever write anything?
Blitzkrieg, I think I joined them in my senior year. I think we were trying to figure out how to break in to the bar scene. So I was 16, 17, whatever. And I remember we went to the Studio 94, right off 94 in McKnight. Early, when I was a kid, it was the Chain Link. And then it became Studio 94. And we went up there one night. I'm underage.
Yeah.
Somehow got in the bar. Things were really loose back then, Oh, I forgot my ID. I lost it. Okay, get in here.
Well, that was back when you only had to be 18 too, right?
Yeah, but I was still underage.
Yeah.
But I remember getting in the bar and just going, I mean, my parents didn't hang in bars, and nor did I.
Right.
So the whole bar thing was just like you get in there and you're just kind of doing the old freaking people smoking and go, wow, this is kind of. And I think that night that we were there, Fragile might have been playing with Jigs Lee. And that's kind of where something hit me.
Yeah.
Because I saw Jigs get up on there's like a bar height tables, with the high stools. 4 girls sitting around us. He comes out and grabs a stool and gets up on top of their table. And he's got his microphone going, and next thing you know, his pants are around his ankles. He's got powder blue frickin' Speedos on. And I'm just going, what the fuck is going on? I'm going, so the guy with the mic pretty much just can do whatever the fuck he wants. and it kind of fucking, yeah. And we ended up starting to play bars. We did a bunch of opening shows with Frank Kohler.
Okay. Uncle Frank.
The Uncle Frank and his band, the Allies. And played at Maplewood. We didn't do a lot of shows. We did a couple shows. We did the Maplewood Bowl. We did a show with Damien. I don't know if you know. You probably know Kevin Todd.
Oh yeah,
plays in the Arch Allies. Yeah. Well, his band back in the day was Damien.
Okay.
And we opened for them at the North St. Paul Firemen's Hall. I think we only did a few gigs, and then I went through this freaking crux in my life where my parents I was still living at home, and we were probably about, I don't know, maybe 6 months, maybe a half a year into this Blitzkrieg thing. And my father's going, well, I graduate, and my father's going, what are you going to do with your life? I'm like, well, I'm going to be a musician. What does that pay per hour? I was like, well, I don't know, but this is what I'm going for this.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I don't know if you're going to be doing that living here, So I had some choices to make.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of going into the military. I had actually gone down to the recruitment office and started signing up. I was going to be a Marine, and I second guessed myself and didn't sign. It was there.
Right.
I was right there.
Right on the line.
Yeah. And I didn't do it. And I came out of that, and I told the guys in the band, I go, we gotta figure something out. We got to get something happening here, because the old man is not happy with the lack of money coming in, or direction that his son's taken. And then Ron, our drummer, had saw an ad in the City Pages. Guitar player, bass player, looking for drummer and singer. We have connection. That was the big thing back in the day. If you got connections.
We got connections.
Yeah. So me and Ron goes, let's go check this out. They got connections. We drove out to Bloomington. He took his parents' car. We drove out to Bloomington and met with Wes Brunzell, Mike Sen, and Greg Porth.
Mike Sen from Impaler?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was also in a band, I believe, back in the day called Sinner.
I was in a band with him called Hatred.
Yeah.
At one time.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
And Greg Porth ended up being the bass player in Counterattack.
Okay.
And Rusty. John, how many hours you got?
Oh, if I got to make 2 tapes, we'll do it. As long as you want to sit and talk, we're going to go.
I could go for an hour. That's why I asked you earlier, how far back do you want to go, and do you want to touch every bass, or do you want to skip second and third?
I think there's definitely some stuff here that I think is amazing. Like for you, I'm already seeing so many similarities to me and you that I never knew were there. So you meet with Mike Sen in this. What band does this become?
That becomes The Regime.
Mike Sen was originally in The Regime.
It really didn't have a name. It was just the connection that they had was John Domagal.
Oh wow, okay.
Because Wes Brunzell, we call him Rusty.
Yep.
Rusty was a good player, really good for his age. He might have been like a year older than me, so he was like 18 or 19.
Right.
Me and Ron were 18, 19. Us three were all around the same age. And Rusty was a pretty accomplished guitar player at that age. He was from Faribault.
Okay.
I don't know how he came up here.
Like he was living in Faribault coming up to Bloomington?
No, he relocated from Faribault because he knew, I think he was too good for Faribault.
Gotcha.
I mean, if he was going to get anywhere in the music business, he was going to have to.
Yeah, there's
It's like
2 streets there.
It's like being from Minneapolis and going, well, if we're going to become anything, we got to go to LA.
Right. I hear you.
So Rusty was up here with Ann. So it was them three, Greg Porth, Mike Sen, and Rusty. So me and Ron kind of auditioned at the same time. They showed us the list of songs they had, and we go, okay, we know these 3, 4, 5. And we played them. They were like, so now we had to audition for John.
So John was actually managing them?
John had kind of had seen how good Rusty was and said, I'm going to build a band around this guy.
Okay.
Kind of like, well, you find one good player, and you can find other good players to make it a super band. I mean, not saying that we were a super band or anything, but John, so when I met John was still at Marsh Productions, hadn't started ARM yet. He was still at Marsh, and his band, the Wild Dogs, were playing out at Loose Ends out in, well, I don't even know.
Moundsview, right?
Moundsview, yeah. Yep. They were playing out at Loose Ends, his band, and he said, you guys come out. He goes, you can set up on our gear, and I want to hear what you guys got. Oh, so we went out there, set up. John, it was a moment in my life where, you're an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, and John looking badass, got his long hair and his sunglasses on, sweet looking cowboy boots, and there's nobody in the bar. It's just him, and he's sitting 3 tables out into the crowd, and he's got his boots up on the table. He says, play your best. We plug in, we do, I don't even know what the fuck we did. Probably a couple Lover Boy tunes or, something lame.
Right.
But we played the songs that we had that were the best. And John opened up a can of whoop ass on, John was, was going to tell us what he thought. John didn't mince words. John goes, singer, I like you. Rusty, you're awesome. Drummer, he goes, he gave him a few things. He goes, you got to tighten up your hi-hat during the verses. He goes, don't let it splash. Bass player, he's like, I don't even know what to say about you. He goes, Mike Sen, he goes, I don't know what you got going on with your pedal boards up there, because Mike, I think, brought a couple. Every time he let his hands off the strings, it was buzzing and shit, and whatever. It was probably not Mike's fault. We were playing on their gear, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyhow, basically after that, I think me, Rusty, and Ron had a secret meeting with John over at the off. I think probably at Marsh, and John goes, here's the deal. Bass player's gone. The other guitar player's gone. You guys we're going to find you a bass player. He goes, and you guys are going to go out 4-piece. We were like, 4-piece? We got to have another. No, Van Halen. Van Halen's doing it by themselves. Rusty's a good enough player to do it. We were like, okay, John, you're the boss. What are we going to name this band? John said, you're going to be the Regime.
Oh my God! So John Donegal named the Regime.
There's Ross. Ross had been in a band called The Regime.
Ooh.
That was in a battle of the bands. They played one show, a battle of the bands. They won, and the band broke up. So it was Ross's name that John kind of absconded with. Yeah. And John's probably going to say, "You're fucking wrong, Scotty."
This is just how you remember it.
Well, Ross's Regime was Rick Barron, Flash Midnight, who was the drummer from Roller, Rick Barron ended up singing. I ended up singing for Caribou and Wild Child Theater, which is kind of how, as I see it, the Wild Child Theater band, which was, I don't know, what, 40 years ago? No. Yeah, roughly. This band was probably the beginning of what's happening now. You know, like Arch Allies.
Yeah.
A set of Journey, a set of Styx, and a set of this.
Yeah.
Wild Child Theater was doing it 40 years ago.
What
And at that, Journey.
Oh, really?
Oh, Rick Barron.
Okay.
Rick Barron was Steve Perry. Yeah.
Wow.
They were doing Journey, Def Leppard, and somebody else. Somebody could.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's when we saw him doing that, we were just like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Especially because Rick was their Journey was their cherry.
Yeah.
Because Rick was really good at it.
Okay.
But anyhow, so we're get sidetracked.
You were talking about Ross and the
the name thing. Ross has told me it was his band's name.
So did Domagal bring Ross into the regime?
That's another thing. So when we got under John's wing, John was just, I think, leaving. He was going to start his own agency.
Yeah.
He was going to leave Marsh, and I'm not sure. I think Greg Absey at the time. Greg might have left Marsh and started his own deal, Absey Entertainment, and things are a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
But John was going to leave, so John left Marsh, and Tony, his brother, who was Rock Central, or I don't even know what it goes by now.
I just remember Rock
TSG,
Central.
maybe.
I don't even know about. I'll find it out.
John and Tony. Tony was going to be the equipment end of the deal. John was going to be the booking.
Mm-hmm.
So they moved their operations over to their dad's house by Lake Phelan. So us as kids, me, Ron, Rusty, John was going to break us into the business and kind of show us the ropes of how shit works. Well, he slaved our ass out. Tony was in the process of building all of his PA cabinets.
Yep.
Well, we were out in the fucking garage screwing corners on Tony's. Yeah. So
you were helping to build the PA.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And well, then John had other bands that it was Kelly and Ross, Jim Galone, Love God, Jerry's last name. I can't remember. Rest in peace, Jerry. It was them guys in a band called Assassin.
I remember that name.
Yep. And they were already out playing the circuit, playing, out of state.
But they were playing under Domagal's flag, so to speak.
Yep.
Okay.
So John would send us, we'd go open for him sometimes. And if we weren't opening for him, we needed work. So me and Rusty or Ron, we'd go set up the light show, run lights. So we were going up to Brainerd and.
So you're teching or you're playing?
Yeah. At that point, I was willing to do pretty much anything.
Right.
Almost anything.
So here's my 2 cents on it. Here's what it sounds like. It sounds like when John saw you guys, he goes, I already know the guitar player I want.
Yep.
And he was in a band called The Regime at one time. So you guys are going to be called The Regime. I'm going to bring him right in. I think that's probably somewhere in the back of his head was on his mind.
Well, with the Ross thing?
Yeah. You think?
Well, I know I had gone out enough with the Assassin band to kind of get to know him.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly was a little standoffish. He was, Kelly is still Kelly. Yeah. And Ross was a little more, easygoing, laid back, smoked a lot of pot. I mean, I remember driving home from like Brainerd in Kelly's, I think he had like a Le Mans or something. And there'd be the 4 band guys, and I'd be in the back seat with a freaking Marshall head on my fucking lap or some fucking thing, and we're just smoking, like Cheech and Chong shit, you know. I'm going, oh boy, because Galoni, I think sold weed. I think Galoni was selling weed at the time.
Okay.
I don't know if Jim's still alive. I don't know what's going on.
Just calling him out.
Jim, I think you were selling weed. But Ross, the assassin thing, I went for a little while, and Ross wanted to play a little more heavy stuff. He didn't. They were doing a lot of, because Kelly was good at like doing Creedence, you know, Fogerty singing Fogerty,
all right,
and the kind of the older, yeah. I mean, Kelly's a great player.
Oh, amazing.
But I don't think Kelly was really into the heavy stuff, and Ross wanted to get a little heavier. So I think Ross had contacted me and said, you know, we gotta get together. So from there, I think Rusty. Well, it was me, Ron, Rusty, and Midge. Midge, you know Midge, don't you? Midge. That's another story. Love the guy to death. Midge belongs trucking. We played. John put us out on the road. We played a lot.
Now, the road is like the 5-state area?
No, it was mainly Minnesota, Wisconsin. We'd get some gigs in town, but they were usually Sunday nights, Monday nights.
Oh, wow.
We'd open for a lot of bands.
So let me ask this real quick. At this time, we're talking like 1980 what?
Probably 80. Probably like 88.
88.
No, that couldn't be.
No, because I
got my date. I graduated in 82.
Okay.
So it was probably like 80, 83, 84.
And was music in the Twin Cities a monster then, or did it get bigger? Because there was a time when I was coming in where there was hundreds of people in that bar on a Friday night and Saturday night.
Yeah.
And you cannot get hundreds of people in a bar nowadays unless the band is amazing and has a following.
Yeah.
But back then it was like every Friday and Saturday night, hundreds of people. Was that as early as 84?
I think even before the 80s, probably like in the side. I don't know.
Right.
But it seems to me like there was a lot of clubs. I mean, it stands to reason. If you got 1,000 clubs and 100 bands, you know, some of them clubs aren't going to make it because they just can't. You know,
right?
It's just simple math. I mean, you got to have a proportionate amount of bands to play and a proportionate amount of clubs to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the 80s deal was to me, I feel really glad that I lived through that time, because it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was different in the fact that you kids nowadays with your bands, you should be glad that you got social media, because your instant promo is there.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have a gig, and 1,000 people know about it.
But it's also there's a thing about that too, where it's so everybody's doing that it just goes by like a blip. Like back in the day when we were younger, you'd go out to that bar that you were going to play next week, and maybe you'd hand out little handbills and go, "Hey, come see me."
Yeah.
You'd introduce.
There was definitely
inviting
a
them.
connection.
Now it's like, well, I've got 1,000 followers. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll show up.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't.
Yeah.
So there's a hit or miss there, I think.
Yeah.
You know, but when you're doing all this stuff in Wisconsin and a Sunday in the cities, how were your Sundays?
It was pretty bleak in the beginning.
Yeah.
You had to first you had to get the club owner on your side.
Yeah.
Because there was club owner looks at the agent like a piece of shit. "Oh, you want your 15% out of these guys, and all the club owner wants is a good crowd and people drinking beer.
Yeah.
And all the band wants is just some people to play in front of. So everybody wants something. We all collectively want the same thing,
Right.
but we all,
we're all looking at it from a different angle.
Yeah, the band guys are, I wrote songs about frickin' how I felt about agents and booking,
Happened to be a huge hit for the regime.
Well, I don't know about a hit. I haven't received any
man.
checks in the mail lately.
Listen, 35 years later, people still. I was at a show a month ago, and somebody played "Ain't So Fucking Bad,"
Yeah,
the riff, just because I was there. So I still have that connection
yeah.
to this band, and I love it, and it was my youth, and maybe we get there in a second because it was a huge change for me. But so you got the regime started. Ross comes in off the meeting, and Rusty leaves. So how does Todd get in there? And Carrie, for that matter, and Crispy.
So it was
classic lineup.
So it was. Rusty ended up leaving. I think he might have went back to Faribault. So it was Ron, me, I'm skipping over shit too.
Okay.
The regime thing. There was a guy that came to town back during the Wild Child or the Wild Child Theater thing that I was telling you about, the 3-set deal. This guy came to town, fucking screwball. But he was throwing money around and shit. His name was, we don't even really know the guy's name. Some people called him Dave Hunt. Some people called him Dave Bucknell. We don't even know.
Right.
The guy was a weirdo. But he was throwing money around and he was trying to be a big shot in town, musically. I don't even think he knew anything about music. I think he might have been a freaking weirdo. Anyhow, he had talked me, Ron, and Rusty into starting a new band and ditching the regime thing. I think he wanted to steal us from Donegal. And we were almost ready to bite. And in fact, the regime thing had kind of went to shit. And then John keeps the regime going with Lou Barato.
What did Lou play? Drums?
Lou is a guitar player, singer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, the regime kept going on without us. Yeah, I don't even know how long it went on. It fizzled. It fizzled quick when people realized that it wasn't the regime that it was.
Okay.
And I kind of absolved myself. I was just like, you want the name? You want the fucking? You want to go out with as the regime? Knock yourselves out.
Right. And you thought the name anyway. So
they I think was within a year they probably drove the name into the ground where it was everybody was just like, oh, this ain't the regime. But it was not. I mean, it wasn't the Ron Rusty Midge regime. We were back and we were doing some lame stuff, really lame. Loverboy, and I mean, I shouldn't knock Loverboy, but it's on the light end.
Listen, when you're wanting to play Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, and you're playing Loverboy, that's a huge
leap
shift in what your want and what this is telling you to do.
Well, John had told us as the young guys that we were. He goes, if you want to play, if you want to get the Friday nights and Saturday nights at these bars, you got to pack the place and you got to get women dancing because the women bring the guys and the guys buy the beers and, club owner happy. He doesn't, club owner, doesn't give a fuck how good you are, how good you look, how good you sound. He doesn't care. If you bring people in and they're drinking, you could go out there and fart on stage and it wouldn't matter as long as you can bring people in. But John would tell, you got to do the latest Brian, cuts like a knife, or whatever.
Is there footage of you singing "Cuts Like a Knife" somewhere?
I fucking hope not. No, it's a funny thing, when Carrie Dombrock passed away, God rest his soul, his sister called me and says, I got this box of stuff that Carrie was kind of like the guy that would, like when you'd go out on the road or whatever, and he'd sit and take pictures, and he kept all of his shit.
Dude, he loved being a musician.
Yeah. He big time.
Loved it.
Whereas for me, I live it's in the moment. I don't need a picture of this because I'm here right now.
Yeah.
And an hour from now, I might have forgot that I did that, and I might want to look at that picture and go, "Oh, yeah, an hour ago."
I remember that. Okay.
Yeah, but Carrie was that guy, so he had a box of drumsticks and VHS tapes and all this stuff. She goes, "I don't want it. Do you want it?" I said, "I'll take it." So I've got a box of stuff, old set lists. I think I got some DVDs, like really old stuff. I mean, like playing.
Have you ever spent time going through it?
I think I did. I did bounce everything. I had all the VHSs bounced to DVD.
Okay.
But I haven't really looked at them.
Oh. Do you ever think you'll have a day where you just feel like you want to do it? Like you just mentioned, you're not really big in the past as much. You're more about the moment.
Yeah.
But do you ever have those times where you miss your friend and maybe you want to look at that?
Yeah. I had thought somebody had talked to me about, doing a mass producing, not mass producing, but,
digitizing,
burning a bunch of stuff and for people that want to buy it. And it's like, I don't know, maybe the music business was the wrong thing for me. Cause I'd almost sometimes rather just give the shit away. I mean, I got a shitload of discs and shit. And, can I make $10 here or $10 there? It's like, yeah, but
just need to
somebody should hire
one of your grandkids to just do the administrative duty and sell all that stuff for you.
You mean put my grandkids to work? Oh my God.
Well, let's not go there. Let's not go there. So then, okay, so the regime went on without you guys. How did it come back?
So me, Ron, Rusty, and this Dave Bucknell guy, we were going to start a band called Godling, like baby gods.
Yeah.
No egos involved
Not
there.
at all. Not at all. On the time of Angel, I believe.
That fizzled and probably came back around about 1985. Lou and them guys had run the name into the ground with the shit they were playing. And not that any of them guys are bad guys or whatever. It's just when when you're used to seeing Kiss and next thing you know, it's Frank and Leroy got Kiss makeup on. They're out there not playing Kiss songs. They're doing Rat or whatever. You're going, well, they look like Kiss. I know it's not Kiss and they're not playing Kiss, but it's just not, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And I think people were, I don't know, maybe a little put off by what they were doing. I don't know. They were all nice guys.
Yeah.
From what I remember. Anyhow, 85, I think, me, Ron, Ross, Kelly, somehow we got Kelly on board to play guitar. He was going to try to go with the little heavier thing. And the bass player was Crispy. We found Crispy. Actually, we were looking for a bass player, and we had told John had a list of like 3-4 guys that he thought would fit the band. And I think Ross had said to him, well, what about this Crispy guy? We're hearing a lot about this Crispy guy. Crispy was playing in Armageddon with Carl Kaiser. He was played in Paradox for a while, whatever.
Okay.
So Chris was playing with them, and Chris was a couple years younger than me. Chris might have still been in high school or just got out of high school. Anyhow, Chris was a little plump at the time.
Nothing wrong with the big guy.
Well, I don't.
Chris Keys, by the way.
He Ross had said, "What about this Chris guy, Crispy?" John made an offhanded comment. He goes, "I just saw him standing on the bus stop eating a bag of candy. You don't want him."
Oh my.
Yeah. So we were like, "Oh, okay." Well, we ended up getting Crispy into the band. So it was me, Ross, Kelly, Crispy, and Ron. Well, so we started rehearsing, and Ron started getting, I don't know, I don't think Ron was interested much anymore. He had other shit that he wanted to do. He really liked fishing. So he was like, we were like, "Ron, we got rehearsal." And he was like, "I'm going to take my boat out and go fishing." He had a little fishing boat.
Were you still doing covers, or were you thinking about
still doing covers? Okay. We were doing a little heavier stuff. The Loverboy had been all that shit had gone.
Was Ron maybe into the lighter stuff, or was he into the heavier stuff?
No, I think Ron just wanted to smoke pot and bang chicks and go fishing.
And I've always said too, like there, in my opinion, just over my life, there's like two types of musician. There's the musician that just loves music and wants everything to do with music.
Yep.
And then there's the musician that's looking for. Oh, thank you.
That's not me.
But then there's the musician that's looking to get something out of playing music.
Yeah.
So like Ron through high school was looking to get something from that. Maybe it was girls, maybe it was attention, whatever that might have been. And then maybe by that time I've had enough.
Yeah.
I can live my life now.
Yeah,
I've lived this.
It's hard to say. I don't think I never really asked. Well, we ended up firing. I had to fire him.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Because he just wouldn't show up for practice.
Well, it was me and Ron before all them guys.
Yeah, you were in them with like 8-10 years.
Yeah, right? Since high school. And we had called rehearsal one day, and Ron said, "Well, I'm going fishing," and the rest of the guys just said, "We got to find another drummer. Then you're gonna have to fire him." I was like, "What do you mean I'm gonna have to fire him?
This is your guy."
So yeah, so I called Ron. I said, "Yeah, it's not gonna work." I go, "Them guys, we're gonna move on from you." I don't know how I put it. I know it wasn't comfortable.
How did it go on? I mean, was he like? Did that end your friendship then at that point?
No, I actually met up with the Blitzkrieg guys, all them guys, the Byland brothers, Billy Matheson and Ron, out at Ron's house out in Wisconsin, like maybe a couple years ago. Was
it tenuous at that time?
No,
like letting them go. So it's almost like he was like, "Thank you."
Might have been. It might have been. Yeah. I know Ron still plays. I think he's playing in. He does. Billy Holmberg.
Mm-hmm.
He does the Wet Barn.
Yep.
Out in Wisconsin.
Yep.
I think Ron goes out there and jams.
Oh, cool.
Because Ron lives.
He's a Facebook friend. He says hi every now and again, likes a post here and there. But I don't think I've ever actually met
Ron. He lives in New Richmond.
Well, not too far away.
Yeah.
Probably play there once or twice a year. Maybe I'll see him.
Yeah.
So then how'd you get Carrie? How'd that happen?
So I think we might have done a show or something. I remember Carrie's band, The Mob, was playing at the VFW on Maryland Avenue over by Phelan area, by the old projects.
Yep.
Going Clarence and
right.
Maryland.
Yep.
So his band was playing there, so we went there and saw him and got a hold of him and said, "You want in on this?" And Kerry fucking jumped, came on board, and Ron was a single bass guy, I think. I remembered Ron being single bass. Kerry had the double kickstone, which was, for metal.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays you could probably play with no kick drum and still have like 7 pedals and still do the.
They've got those weird ghost pedals where you hit it like this and it goes tut tut.
Yeah.
So it's tut 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 tut. They're going like this.
It's kind of not fair.
And their feet are going like that.
Yeah. So Kerry joined the band. So it was me, Kerry, Crispy, Kelly, and Ross. And we played out quite a bit. I think we were doing weekends, Pain Reliever. Very competitive. I remember, like I said earlier about people thinking that I was probably a hater. I kind of was. I
think back then everyone was. You competitive. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, there's people in 9 bands.
Yeah.
7 bands. Back when we were younger,
you had a little older
than me, this was my band.
Yeah.
It was like a gang.
Yep.
And I'm taking out everybody else.
Absolutely.
So I don't think you necessarily were isolated as a hater. I think everybody.
Yeah.
Them.
Oh, because I badmouthed everybody. And which is, I mean, burning bridges,
Oh yeah.
Careful who you smear, because you might end up having to be in a band with them at some point and have to answer to it.
Oh my gosh.
No, so I like our contemporaries with the regime were Counterattack, Obsession, Paradox. We were even before Slave Raider, but then the elder statesmen were Dare Force.
Yeah.
And I think all of us looked up to Dare Force. I mean, there were other bands.
Right.
We used to open for Jesse Brady, Fairchild, Chameleon, all the big name rock bands.
So Dare Force was the big one. Like when you started to really do something.
Yeah.
They were the what you aspired to get to next.
I think
they were the next step.
They were the hardest rock benchmark of the cities. They were the ones that were well known.
Had they played Met Center yet? That one gig that they have. They've got some video on that.
Yeah, I think they might. I think that might have been 80 some, 85 maybe.
So
sometime
you see that and you're like, we're going to get there.
I think they opened for who? Rat, Kiss, somebody?
I just saw a couple videos.
Yeah.
I don't know who they were opening for, but I remember seeing the video of them playing there. So pretty impressed by that. But so you finally got the regime together. 85, maybe 86.
That was still the cover version of the regime. We were doing frickin' 3 1-hour sets. And
when did you decide you were going to write?
That was after Kelly was getting burnt out on the hard rock stuff, or the metal stuff.
Okay.
And so we knew we were going to have to find another guitar player. And Steve Renner, who was part of the Guitar Center down in West St. Paul, right?
Rock Guitar Center. Not to be confused with the Guitar Center.
Yeah.
Rock Guitar.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Ross might have gone down there to buy a guitar or strings or what. I don't know.
Yep.
Ross was down there, and Renner had told him, I got a freaking guy here teaching guitar lessons that you got to check out.
Yeah.
And Ross says, yeah, we got to get him. And we screwed up many a musician joining our band. We didn't really screw them up. We were a step.
Yeah.
But we were a very dirty step.
Speaking about Todd Salmonson, most people would know him as Todd Duane today.
Yep.
He was also in Touched for quite a long time, made many instrumental albums on Shrapnel Records, but the regime was possibly his first real band.
We were his first band.
Wow.
And so the writing thing it was weird because we didn't have a place to rehearse at that point. Ranner said, he goes, I got a room down here you guys can use to rehearse in. So we checked it out, and it was probably, I'm going to say probably an 8 by 15 room. It was kind of like a guitar closet, a closet.
Yeah.
So it was narrow.
Was it like as big as this room?
It was probably from the doorway over there. So 8 by, but it was a long throw.
Yeah.
So I think Carrie's drums were in sideways. We didn't put them on the end. We had them inside like on the half wall. So then some guitar shit went down there, and some guitar shit went down on this wall, and we,
Yeah.
But Ross had said Ross was a very big motivator. I mean, in the band, Ross is one of those guys that thinks it, says it, does it.
Yeah, I remember that about him.
He said, here's what we're going to do. He goes, we're going to play some gigs. We're going to save our money. We're not going to piss it away on drugs and whatever. He goes, we're going to save our money. And I think we might have got a loan for the EP. But he says, we're going to start writing our own stuff. Like, for me, I was just like, so I was probably 86. So I was 20, early 20s. Never written a song before in my life, or a lyric. Never thought out a melody or, and nothing. It was all hear it and sing what I hear, you know?
Yeah.
So when he said this, you kind of get that, little nervous butterflies going, oh, I don't know if I can do this, It's like somebody saying, here's what you're going to do. You're going to get on that motorcycle, you're going to jump that ramp, and you're going to jump that flaming car. And you're kind of going, come on, you can do it. I was like, oh.
I mean, I know how to start the motorcycle.
Yeah. So it was virgin territory for me. I mean, I had never even written a poem or anything.
Yeah.
So when I think I threw the 6 songs that I wrote lyrics for, the first 6 that were on the EP, I think I probably did it in a week. And how do you know when you've never done something before? How do you know if it sucks or if it's bad or if it was good that it was so fresh that I was willing to fucking just go, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Not going into it with, God, I hope this doesn't suck. It was kind of scary, but Todd had a 4-track Fostex. We went in that freaking 8 by 15 room. He fired it up, and Todd knew what he was doing, with the recording, because he was one of them guys.
Yeah.
And we laid down the basic tracks for it. The cassettes are probably somewhere on this planet. Todd's probably got them somewhere.
Nice.
But we ended up re-recording those and out at Bart's at Logic. And
can I ask you a question? I don't want to totally interrupt, but I always wondered this. Now, Into a Trance, it was such an interesting lyric for me. And then years later, I heard the Scorpions song In Trance. Was it inspired?
When we were talking about the Scorpions earlier, I probably nabbed that In Trance.
Yeah.
I probably did.
It is so crazy how, like, when I was coming up, your song, I heard that. I can still.
Is the melody similar?
No, not even close. But it was just the word. Yeah. You're like, into a trance, I'm bound. And then their song is like, I'm in trance.
I'm in trance.
And it was just kind of like,
oh, baby, tell me, can you hear me calling? I'm in trance.
That's what I mean. It just kind of was like that phrasing to be, I'm like totally into this person.
It's similar though. Now that
well, you're into a trance, I'm bound, spinning around and around.
Yeah, it's very. I think I might have ripped off the Scorpion.
So that's what I meant. I always wanted to ask that if there was some inspiration there, some nugget.
I would imagine, yeah.
So how did you get to Brian Bart's Logic Studio? Was that through Domagal? Was that somebody reaching out? How did that happen?
That was when he had the studio out on Medicine Lake Road, I think. He's since moved. I think I have no idea how.
I mean, did you know him? Did Ross?
Well,
know him?
we had opened for Dare Force, so I mean,
so
we were kind of. I was kind of a punk kid to them guys. I think I was. I personally have never been one to. I'm not a big time fanboy of people.
Oh, believe me, I know this.
I mean, even when we opened for Pantera, if given the option to meet Pantera and hang out with them guys, I would say no. I'm good.
Yeah.
You crispy, you go fucking do Jaeger bomb shots and shit and drink black
Twins.
Yeah. That was, and I've always thought about it, going, why are you like that, Yauch? Why wouldn't you want to meet them guys? You love their freaking music. Why wouldn't you want to meet? And I've thought about it and go, I don't know. Is it my ego? Do I think I'm better than them? Or I don't think that. I think I just don't want to impose on people. I look at myself as their band is way better than my band, but they're still a human and they're no different than me. And I know sometimes when I'm out, I get uncomfortable with people
clamoring all over.
Yeah, it's just kind of uncomfortable.
No, and I get that. I mean, there's like, I've almost
and don't get me wrong, I'm not a rock star by any. I'm not implying that I sit out at restaurants and people walk up to me with their notepads going, "Mr. Yauch, can I get it?" It's just sometimes there's been times where it gets a little uncomfortable.
I think people, there's a familiarity that people will sometimes have with you because they've seen your band, they know your name, they have this idea of who you are.
Yeah.
And they will approach you and they will, cross over that bubble that y'all have. So I get that. I mean, there's a very, like, when people come up after a show and like, "Oh man, that was great." I'm like, "Thank you so much. Awesome. Glad you had a good time. See ya."
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I don't want to be, leave me alone, but I'm breaking down my gear. I want to go home. I'm tired.
Yeah.
There's all that stuff too. So I kind of get some of that. I mean, you guys, Cacophony, you played with Cacophony, you played with Pantera. What were some of the other big ones you played with?
Except
Nice.
Warrant, Trickster.
Oh, well, that I got a feeling that was all ARM influence.
Yeah, there was a couple of the shows were like combo shows, so it was like Warrant and Trickster, but I wouldn't even say we were on the bill. Somehow we got. It wasn't like Warrant, Trickster, and special guest the Regime.
They needed some time.
Yeah, it was like, what's his name from Voivod died, so you got to fucking fill this.
Oh my God! So we need.
That's how we got the Pantera show.
Really?
The guy from Prong had broke his arm or broke his leg.
Like the guy, Tommy Victor from Prong? The guy?
The one guy you could ask about Gene Hollister from, I think it was Gene's show.
Okay.
Or Gene was helping with the show. I think it was Gene's show though. It was Pantera, Prong. Was there somebody else? Might have been somebody else. I don't know. The dude from Prong broke his arm or some fucking thing, like last minute, like within a day of the show, and whatever they needed. And Gene had called Mark Ruhat and said, "I need a band, and I need a band now."
Was Mark with ARM still at that time?
I think Mark was just doing the Advantage. And
okay. So he had stepped out on his own. So you guys were with Mark at that time?
Yeah, we were his bell cow.
Yeah. Yep. You were the band.
Yeah.
Cool. So Pantera, Cacophony, those are the two that you recall, and then a slew of other.
Yeah, except
I got to open for Udo Dirkschneider about 5 or 6 years ago.
I saw that.
That was
Was
so
that
good.
the new club in downtown St. Paul?
Amsterdam. Yep.
Oh, what's the other new one in
The
downtown?
Amsterdam is pretty much it. I don't know if there's.
I thought there was one underneath the further down Wabasha, further north on Wabasha. Wasn't there supposed to be a club going in there? Maybe
I don't recall that one. There might be, but because I haven't been downtown St. Paul in ages, other than that, But that was pretty cool. And Udo was on tour, and his son is playing drums for him.
No kidding.
So I was sitting backstage talking with Udo and his son, and it was a great show. So
he doesn't talk like he sings.
No.
No.
Hey,
John.
No, he does not.
You remember when you were doing your last podcast with your
Dennis?
Dennis.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the high vocals and shit, I'm sitting there watching. I'm going, John, that's witchy. That's witchy.
That's right.
The word you're looking for is witchy.
Witchy vocals. Inspired by Mr. Scott.
And you know what? And you do have a folding credit on Knucklesandwich, I believe.
I do. I remember that.
You got a folding credit. You got the Mad Magazine folding credit.
I made it
for you. Those of you that don't know, John. I might have been. That was Knucklesandwich album, and we were working on Knucklesandwich, and I might have been getting a little too wordy.
Okay,
a little too wordy. John comes over and sits down next to me, and I got my sheet writing the lyrics for Knucklesandwich, and John goes, folds the paper in half. He goes, why don't you just go with that? I go,
Oh, God, I remember that. That's so great.
Yeah.
And it worked.
And he went Mad Magazine on me. Put A to B, and it got rid of like 18 words per verse.
And it worked.
That's what it turned into: cruising, bruising, beggars, choosing.
Wow. I forgot all about that. So let's go. Can I say, though, I want to jump back, because here's the part that I want to get your side of this story. I've told the story many times, how Wally and I were out, went to Northern Lights, saw the Dead Serious cassette, took it home, listened to it countless times. I mean, back then you would go out and get an album or a cassette, and you'd actually sit in front of the radio and listen to it, or the stereo and listen to it. It's not on your phone anymore, where you just 30 seconds, next 30. You listened, you ingested it, you digested it, you did all that. And then I looked in the back and saw your name on the J card, and looked you up in the phone book and called you. Now, the whole time I did all this, Wally's like, are you serious? You're okay. Tell me from your side what happened.
Well, I think my mom was actually working at Harding at the time. Because I remember you saying something to me on the phone about my mom worked in the offices.
Yeah.
And but that, I don't even know why I was over at my parents' house. With the house that I grew up in, I have no idea why I was there. So it was probably 80.
It had to be like 86.
I don't think I was living. I'm pretty sure I wasn't living at home anymore.
It had to be like 86, late 86, I think.
I know I wasn't stopping home to get money, because that wasn't happening.
Maybe you were doing the laundry.
I don't know. I might have just stopped over to see my parents, and my mom phone rang. We still had the cord attached to the deal on the wall. My mom answers the phone. She goes, Scott, it's for you. And I'm like, what? I haven't lived here for 2 years. And that brings me to another story. I get on the phone, talk with John, and John says, what's your name? John Magnuson. Well, to the other story, that's how you got your name, Stunner. Because I had gone to rehearsal, and I'd always relay, when something weird happens or whatever, I go, hey, I'm over at my mom and dad's today, and this kid out of nowhere just calls over to my mom and dad's house wants to talk to me. And I remember Ross saying, what was the kid's name? And I said, I don't know, John Munstantgon. Then he became Stun Gun. Then he became Stunner. So our band has probably given quite a few people names that have stuck the rest of their life. You know Steve Taylor, the old sound man down at Ryan's.
Oh yeah, Bones.
Everybody calls him Bones.
Bones, yeah.
I gave him that name, Bones. I go, dude, you look like Sonny Bono.
Which he did.
So we started calling him Bono. Then he became Bones, and yeah.
Scott Yauch. Eventually, it got to Stun, but
yeah.
So I call you. You're like, okay,
yeah,
great, because I just was like, your band's amazing. I want to check you out. Now, the thing that blows me away that I guess I didn't fully realize, I'm an East Side of St. Paul kid, and I got this cassette in Midway. Now, Midway is the midway between St. Paul and Minneapolis, two huge cities.
Yeah.
I find this tape. The tape doesn't say East Side of St. Paul.
Yeah.
But here I call you, and we literally lived, well, you didn't live with your folks anymore, but we're both East Side kids.
Yeah.
And that just...
Both went to the same high school.
Went to the same high school and everything. And it still kind of just blows me away how fate is. You weren't even supposed to be at your mom's that day.
No.
But that day, off a whim, is the day that I call to say, your band's awesome. I'd love to come check you guys out. And if I hadn't made that call and you hadn't been at your mom's that day, even though we were in the same neighborhood, we may have never met.
Fate is a weird thing.
It's crazy.
I totally believe in fate.
I do too.
So you know what, John? You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Stunner stage.
I was kind of joking, John.
I don't think of it as a joke because honestly, I was pretty brazen for a 16-year-old kid, and I'm sure you were like, sure, we're playing at Ryan's. Come on down.
You call over to my parents' house. What's the worst that can happen? My mom says, you motherfucker, don't ever call here again, Well, I'll guarantee you that would never happen because my mother wouldn't speak like that. Right. I don't know where I got my language from.
I was from hanging out in bars when you were 16.
Could have been.
So I come down to Ryan's.
Yeah.
Me and Wally come down. And again, I just walk right onto the stage.
Yeah.
And pop that drape open to introduce myself.
Yeah.
What was your thought when that happened?
I guess I probably was surprised that you got in. I mean, it's a crapshoot. When you put somebody on the list, you don't. Number one, you don't know if they'll show. Number two, if they're not of age, you don't know what's going to transpire at the door. You kind of hope. Well, yeah, I hope I don't look like an idiot. Yeah. I put you on the list. I know you're not going to get in.
Right.
But then I thought, our band kind of ran the shit down there at Ryan's. I mean, I like to tell everybody it was our bar, and it wasn't our bar, but we got away with a lot of shit.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Ma loved you guys. Tom loved you guys.
Yeah. Well, Tom
you loved that you made money.
Yeah. Tom tolerated us. I had gone back and forth with Tom quite a few times. Tom would try to fuck us out of a little money, and I'd go, come on, Tom. Seriously, Tom? You got to do a 90-minute set. You played 87 minutes. It's like, really? You're going to take
Sounds like Dibbo rules.
I guess not that bad, but if Tom could, you got 2 extra cases of Michelob. I'm going to have to charge you for those. It's like, oh, God, that's the price of doing business, Tom,
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so I guess I was, I might have been a little surprised when you two chaps stepped through the curtain, like, well, they actually got in,
Yep.
I wouldn't have called that one, but
right. And I don't think after that, I didn't let it go. I think I called and
Yeah.
bugged, and I came again. Next thing you know, I'm like, let me lift that amp and let me do this.
Yeah. You're very much like I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to give you credit for just continuing to go. I mean, like you said earlier, there are guys that they get what they want out of the music business, and they're good with walking away. Like me. I mean, I loved my life. It's almost like I lived two different lives. You know.
Yeah.
Even at the time when I was living it, I was still, I was never the musician that said, okay, I guess here's what I'm going to have to do to be this musician. I'm going to have to find a stripper that makes a lot of money, bang her, she'll pay my bills, she'll buy my strings, she'll buy my food. I was never that guy.
You didn't go the Motley Crue route.
No fucking way. I'm a self-sufficient guy where I go, I know what I got to do to make sure that that I'm covered. Yeah. My rent's paid, my electric's paid, my phone bill. I will, and like I did, drove garbage truck, drove dump truck, drove semi, drove.
You'd end the gig, get home at 2:30 in the morning, be up at 4 or 5 to
wasn't
go
easy.
Work.
That's why I got to get injections in my back 3 times a year.
You ran it off the rails.
Yeah. So I give you credit in the fact that you're one of them guys that and when you can do that, I mean, what fucking better life if you playing music, loving what you do, and frickin', I mean, it's not really work. It's not really work.
Listen, it is work to get there.
Yeah.
It is work to get home afterwards.
Yeah.
The 2 hours, 3 hours that I'm on stage, that ain't work. Yeah. Around that last...
You got to get yourself some good roadies, too.
Around the last 30 minutes...
You guys got roadies?
No.
No?
That costs money.
We were not the band that didn't like throwing money around. I mean... More people made money off us than us, and we're us.
Well, now there was time when I first started with you guys, I didn't get paid in cash. I got paid in gear. Yeah. Like Ross is like, well, why don't you do these few shows and do like 9 or 10 shows, and here you can have this. And here he gives me a Jackson Rhodes V.
Yeah.
Again, best friends Wally. I don't play guitar. Right now. I'm like, ting, 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 ting. Here, Wally.
Yeah.
Go ahead and play that. So he benefited from that, and then later on in life, the as small as this world is, us East Side kids, Wally ends up joining the regime.
Yeah, you and Wally are definitely lifers. But you work too. Oh, yeah. I mean, you always had.
Oh yeah.
Well, you don't do it.
I wouldn't say always.
You don't work anymore.
24, 25.
You don't work anymore.
Oh yeah. Every day.
What?
I'm a manager for a
shoe salesman.
Yeah, right. Water delivery. Oh,
so you're still doing you were doing water for a long time.
Yeah, well, for the last 8 years, been doing that. When just give me a little bit about Ross leaves, Vern comes in. How did that transpire? What happened there?
Well, it was after 91, so we had recorded Ugly, and we were on the hook for about 20 grand. We had borrowed money from a friend, Tracy Crawley. We flew Pete up, and so yeah, Pete was part of the 20,000. He didn't have to pay it back, but he got paid out of it. So we were on the hook for that. So we knew in order to start selling these CDs, which was quite a bit of, I think the first EP was a couple $1,000, and Knucklesandwich was maybe $5,000-6,000 maybe for the whole deal. And
that's to record it and produce the actual material.
And pressing of the cassettes. Yep. Yeah. So the Ugly deal was quite a bit jump up in monetary.
Did you guys do any albums? Like it seemed like
on,
it was cassettes, but nothing
vinyl.
On vinyl.
No.
Never. Okay.
We did cassettes and CDs. And no, it didn't seem like it. It seemed like vinyl was the medium that was just gonna go the way of the dodo bird.
Which is weird because now, like, I just did a Nopathy, my last original band, about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
We were finally going to go in and record just an EP. It was the band that we held together for, 17 years, but it was just like the Wednesday night hang.
Yeah.
And we wrote a couple things here and there. So we put together a 4-song, full, real, well done recording. And then we're like, well, let's do a 7-inch vinyl because we've never done that.
Yeah.
And then at this time, it was right after COVID and supply chain. It was like 19 months to get a vinyl made.
Yeah.
And it was thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So we're like, digital release it is.
Yeah.
So back then, you guys did cassettes because they were easier and quicker.
Well, I mean, nowadays, if you listen to vinyl, you're one of those guys.
Yeah.
You've got the state of the art fucking turntable, and you're not just Joe Blow. I mean, on my old Philco, I'm not just going to go, yeah, I think I'll spin freaking Hysteria from Def Leppard on vinyl tonight and have it sound like shit.
You got the little eraser to get all the dust particles off it.
You're the guy that wants to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, vinyl was never going to happen. But
so you're at Ugly and the
yeah, we knew that in order to recoup this money and pay our debt back, we were going to have to hit the road. We were always trying to get a record deal. I mean, that was the main goal, to try to get signed.
Now, you turned down a couple though, right? Because there was stuff. I remember one time at My Apple, you had the big room where you were practicing.
Yeah.
And there was like I almost want to say it was like a Witchy Poo Records. It was something weird like that.
There was K-Tel.
I remember K-Tel.
It sounds weird, but K-Tel had put an offer out to us, and we got a little bit haughty about it and started asking for tour support and all this shit. And they just said, nah, no thanks.
Now, is that that doesn't seem like the one I remember, but was there multiple? Was there like 2?
I don't. That's the only one I remember. I know we had gone out and showcased for a few. We've showcased for John Baxter, Halford's manager, when he was in Fight. We showcased for him out in Phoenix. That didn't go well.
What happened there?
Yeah, I might have said something. Anyhow. We knew we had to hit the road. We knew we had to sell some discs, and we had to get out there out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, to have, somebody had to notice us, And Ross was a full-time work guy and wasn't into going on the road, not for weeks, Yeah. I was out of town up north, and I had gotten a call from Chris, and he said, Ross quit the band. And I was like, huh? He goes, yeah, he doesn't want to go on the road. I go, well, what do you mean he quit the band? I go, you sure he wasn't forced out of the band? And it was more of a, now we can talk about it.
Yeah.
I think he was more or less, it was a coup. It was a coup.
You're going or you're not going.
You're either going on the road or you're
quitting the band.
You're done. Which is, I don't know why I'm the only guy that feels uncomfortable about doing shit like that. Firing my old drummer Ron, who's one of my best friends, and Chris and Jay had it all figured out, evidently, and they broke the news to me that we're going to have to get a new guitar player because it wasn't going to work. I mean, I understand the whole thing because I was on board with going on the road also.
Right.
I just wasn't okay with, it seemed to be very weird to coincide the coup was happening while I was out of town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it would, I don't think I would have let it go down like that.
There was a time where we in Avalanche had to let go of Aaron because Aaron's dedication at the time. And again, I mean, he was a brand new dad. and had to
Yeah.
take care of a wife and a baby and a job, and you know, some of the practice slacked a little bit and things like that. And
Some things are understandable, you know. I mean,
it's time for a change.
Yeah.
And we were practicing 3 days a week, and we wanted to go somewhere, and
Yeah.
we were, you know, we were thinking we were going to be the next Anthrax or something. So, but there were band members that were like, you know, I don't want to be there for that conversation.
Yeah.
And it ended up being me and Wally.
It's tough to wrap around for your average Joe that's not in a band to wrap the concept of it's all for one and one for all. I mean, I know early, like 19, 20 years old, I had a steady girlfriend, and if it came down to her or the band, she was gone.
That's the way it was back then.
Yeah.
It really was. You know, now we've learned in our older years, at least if you're still playing like me, you got to balance that stuff out. I mean, I play every weekend, but if I'm not playing on that weekend, me and the wife are doing something.
Yeah.
We're going out. I'm showing her that she is more important than my part-time job on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know, but I get that. So they kind of like, Scott's out. He'd be the resistance to this. We'll wait till he's fishing.
Yeah, I think if I probably would have been in town, I probably would have said, we're going to have to, even after Carrie left and Soup came and sat in, and Soup went on the road with us the first time down south.
Yeah.
I had told them guys, it's Carrie's gig to lose. I go, we're not playing this game of fuck. You know, Carrie's injured. Sorry, nice to have known you. Yeah. If your injury gets better, that's too bad because we've moved on.
Yeah.
I go, it's not going to be like that. I go, if we get back from this tour thing and Carrie's better and he can prove to us that he can fucking handle the rigors of what he's got to do day in and day out, then it's Carrie's gig. Even though I knew Dave was a superior drummer to Carrie. I mean, they're just different drummers.
Yeah, I mean, Don Brock was an amazing player. I mean, he was back in the Dead Serious days and stuff. The stuff he wrote was very interesting and technical. The thing that ran into him was he had this tennis elbow thing that whenever he would open up to play, it would lock or something, and he couldn't play. So here you got a guy that's basically handicapped to play either, I think it was all hi-hat. He had to play hi-hat. If he opened up to play ride, the gate fucked it up so much that it would be so painful for him that he would end up messing up other parts of the beats and whatever.
Yeah.
I still remember it was a Friday, Saturday night at the Mirage, and Carrie was struggling on Friday night, and Jay comes over to me on the side of the stage and goes, "Call Dave." And I called him, and we gave Dave a bunch of cassettes overnight, and he came out Saturday night and just filled in on a couple songs.
Yeah.
On the songs that were, I think it was like Relentless, where he's just double bassing and hitting over here. And that was the writing on the wall, I think, because all of a sudden there was somebody there that could play the tougher stuff.
Yeah.
And Jay and Vern, they wanted to play the tougher stuff. They wanted to get in there where it's just dueling leads and that double bass is going. And,
very Racer X.
Yeah.
Now later in my life, I love Racer X, but I listen to Racer X. I'm going, that's us with good vocals.
Oh my God! Oh, nothing against
Jeff Martin is far beyond what I can do. Martin's a little. It's got a little quirkiness to him. Kind of, he does some weird vocal shit. I mean, if you've listened to him before.
Oh yeah. You weren't friends with Jay without listening to Racer X.
Yeah.
That was kind of.
See, the thing was, I never, like, when them guys came with shit to write or new songs that we were going to work on that were going to be our songs, I never knew where they came from. I mean, I don't think they really ripped, like, but you can hear in Jay and Vern the Paul Gilbert and Bruce Boulez.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even there's one song, it might be Into the Night during the bridge after the lead.
Mhm.
Oh,
a little bit of
I'm going, hold on a minute here.
influence, man.
Yeah.
Go now. To be fair, they're heavily influenced by that. You wrote Into a Trance, could have been influenced by
Yeah.
Scorps.
So we were kind of a mashup between Racer X and the Scorpions.
I'm just saying we all have our influences.
Oh yeah.
You know.
So and you don't really even know where it's almost like what do they call it? Subconscious.
Subliminal.
Yeah.
It's all subliminal. I mean, there were times where I was the voice of reason when we were writing Avalanche songs, where I'd go, that's overkill. Hang on, let me find it. And I'd be like looking through cassettes, go right there.
I'm insane.
That's that. Yeah. And you know, there was times where I'd be like, fuck you, man. I'm like, I'm just trying to say, if I'm saying it,
Yeah.
someone out there's going to say
Yeah.
it. You know, that's all. But,
Yeah.
you know, influence is one thing, and it's great.
Well, the Ross thing leaving also, Chris and Jay had already.
They had already picked.
Well, they called me and they said, Ross is leaving the band. But we already got a replacement for him. I'm like, well, I just found out he's leaving the band, and I just found out that we've already got a replacement for him within like that.
Yeah.
I'm going, so you know, whatever. Shit happens the way it happens. And, you know, I'm not bad mouthing Chris or Jay for how things went down, or
they were hungry.
Yeah.
They wanted the next step. They felt
I personally wouldn't have handled things like that. I would have probably sat down with Ross, with the whole band, and said, look, Ross, here's what we want to do. Are you sure? You know, are you sure you don't want to go on the road?
Right.
Because we're either going, and you're going with us, or you're not going with us and we're going.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, they told, you know, Vern from Sinister Grin. And I think I had met Vern. I knew he could play. His personality, I thought might be a little problem, because Vern's probably going to see this. Vern could be pretty full of himself. I can probably be pretty full of myself too, but I'm in the band before you. Anyhow,
listen, I'll just say on the Vern thing, I've known Vern forever too.
Yeah.
Vern is a really nice guy. He can kind of be an asshole. And that's how I look at it.
Well, we can all be.
We can all be.
That's why I don't.
Can all be.
That's why I don't drink like I used to drink, because it finally dawned on me. If you're around drunks enough, besides being a drunk yourself, and I wasn't really a drunk, but I know what level I get to, where, I mean, I pretty much speak my mind about everything when I'm sober. And then you add alcohol to that, and there are no filters.
No boundaries at all.
You know,
it's coming out.
There might be a bar fight tonight because I don't like how that guy's looking at me, or whatever. So that's why I don't drink anymore. Or I do drink, but I
will say that you guys, one, having a best friend that also didn't drink when we were 16, 17, that was huge. But I didn't know a lot of 16-year-olds that hung out with 25-year-olds.
No.
So for me,
when the 25-year-olds weren't pedophiles.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I was seeing 25-year-olds partying super hard.
Yeah.
And it made me go, that doesn't look like fun.
Yeah.
You know, if I was 16 hanging out with other 16-year-olds partying, that level of partying, I probably never would have seen it. But seeing that older, like, mentor or people you looked up to, falling over drunk, being a complete asshole, way too hooked on this or hooked on that, it made me go, okay, I like this, I don't like that. I'm going to focus on this.
Yeah.
So it helped a lot.
We were glad to take the punches for you, John.
Well, there was that one time I seem to recall there was an encore with about 250 to 300 people out at Ryan's yelling regime, and we're all backstage, and I'm stage manager, and I come back going, hey guys, get out there. And there was 6 lines. And I was told that the band wasn't going back on unless I did one of those. And I'm listening to a crowd say the regime, and they're getting a little loud, and Jay just looked at me like, "What you gonna do, man?" First and only time
Yeah.
that I did that. But I still love you guys.
That what does not kill me only makes me stronger
I have a song called
and
that.
faster.
I have a song called that. Not the faster part. So the Vern joins the band. You start writing.
I was kind of reluctant. Sorry to interrupt, but I think I hadn't really been around Vern. I knew he could play, but the whole, I thought I wasn't going to be.
Well, you didn't like how he got in either, so that a little chip.
Yeah. Well, Vern got indoctrinated. I think the first night we finally accepted that it was actually happening down at Ryan's.
Shots after shots.
Oh, he was on his face on the carpet as we danced like leprechauns around.
Who's the we? You and Crispy?
Oh, probably.
I was gonna say.
No, Vern, I love. He's a brother. Just like Wally. I mean, you're all brothers. I mean, whether you were in the band or in the crew, or I look at all you guys. I mean, we were all part of one frickin' deal.
It became a fact.
Lenny, really Frank, did. You,
Nays,
all of them. Yeah, so many I can't even remember them all. Anyhow.
Okay, so you're sitting there with a brand new band. Probably, and we'll fast forward past the Don Brock part to where you get Soup in there, because we spoke a little bit about Don Brock's tennis elbow, which kind of caused him not to play. So you have now got a band behind you that is probably physically a super group. You've got two amazing guitar players, a bass player that can't be stumped by them, and a drummer that can play anything you want him to play. And this band musically is just...
It was probably at the peak. Musically at its peak after Ross had left and Vern had joined. I mean, just technically.
Yeah. So how long did you have that before things started to
unravel?
Because from what I remember, and I came back and I started doing the stage managing and all that, there was a point where it became the Scott Yauch show.
Yeah.
And it was almost like the music didn't matter anymore. People were starting to throw the beer, spit, just anything to get your attention. And it got to a point where Jay even stopped playing leads for almost a year, just to see if it mattered. Now, these are two guys that used to play guitar 8 hours a day, worked on their craft so that they could go out there and shred like a Paul Gilbert, like a Marty Friedman, and do it in harmony. And now there's none of that.
Yeah.
When did you start to see that change?
I don't know. I think I saw before Jay had left. I could see that he was becoming less interested in what was. Was it my fault? Did I have the fact that you brought up it was becoming the Scott Yauch show? I was probably oblivious to it.
You were an entertainer from day one to day none. You're an entertainer.
Well, I knew that them guys. I knew that them guys always wanted to be a more polished band, which in my head, I fucking hate polished bands. It's great to watch for as a musician, because you can see the package. It's not you're not a fan. You're just going, wow, this is really work. They're from their intro tape, how shit builds, and the anticipation, just everything. That some things are important. I always looked at things like I don't want to go, well, you go like this and I'll go like this. To me, that was just obnoxious.
It's not organic.
No.
Right.
So I always looked at things like like the first time I was at Studio 94 and seeing Jigs Lee going, Jigs Lee didn't go, okay, after doing this song, I'm going to walk out and stand on that table, drop my pants to my fucking ankles, and sing like my pants aren't around my ankles.
Yeah.
Because that's what I saw, and I'm going, holy shit, this guy does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, says what he wants, you know?
Yeah.
And that sunk into me, so I'm like going, plus I had opened with, Frank. Frank, early in the days, Frank was the same way.
Yep.
Put on his, with the what was the wet spots, putting on the costumes and shit. And they're probably a little more rehearsed, but in between songs,
the banter.
Yeah. Just Frank just riffing, just whatever comes to mind. And that's, as a frontman singer guy, that's what I want to be. I want to just go, I try to think of a few things before a show and go, okay, I want to touch on this and I want to touch on that. And that's it. But once I open my mouth, whatever I have, whatever, if somebody throws a fucking beer bottle, it might be on, or I don't know, I might think of something else to say.
Yeah.
I never knew what was going to happen.
I think where it changed, somebody threw a 16-ounce, before red Solo cups, they were clear cups, but threw a 16-ounce beer at you, and you pulled a goalie move on it, smacked it away, and you were like, you can't get one by me.
Yeah.
And that's when it all changed, because you challenged them to get one by you.
Yeah.
And every show after that, beer after beer.
Yeah.
I don't know where the spit came from. I think you spit at somebody once and then they started spitting back at you. But it turned into this, I can connect with Scott.
Yeah.
And people loved it.
Yeah.
And you're a funny dude. You're hilarious to watch. You're a great singer. It became your show.
Yeah.
It really did. And then especially even more so when Jay stopped playing. When Jay stopped playing leads, there was nothing musically to look at anymore.
Yeah.
It was you now. You entertain us because we just lost the Marty Friedman, Jason Becker guy, Yeah,
I could definitely see Jay's it didn't seem like he was happy anymore.
Yeah.
He just it's probably why he to this day I don't think he's picked up a guitar.
I've connected with him 2 or 3 times since he left the regime, and at no point in any of those times has he said that guitars came from underneath his bed.
Yeah.
He said it still has the strings on it from the last show, rusted to the guitar, and he just hasn't touched it. Now, I mean, that could be exaggeration. Maybe he's
I believe him
there. But I remember some conversations before he left where he would get frustrated because beer's getting all over him and things like that. And you used to have to trash bag the monitors, so it always sounded like crap for him. So yeah, he was definitely a little disheartened. But I think it also goes back to, at least my perspective of it, he was so focused from a little kid to be that guy and to take that music there.
Yeah.
And I think he found he couldn't get past the blockage of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was your band. People loved you.
Well, I had a conversation. I think I'm pretty sure it was after Verna joined the band. It might have been maybe 92, 93, sometime around there. I myself was having a lot of self-doubt. And I had gone to Chris and Jay and I had said to them, look, I realized that I was the weak link in the band. I mean, as far as musically goes, I knew what I brought to the band, fucking that shit. Yeah, everybody hung on my word, wanted to fucking see what was going to happen with Scott. Well, how many times was he going to puke tonight? And fucking, I got that, and I could sing a little bit, and I knew the songs. Well, I should know the songs. I fucking wrote them. But I also knew that I was the fucking weak link. Dave's a fucking super great drummer. Dave's a guy that, like you said on your last podcast, Dave's one of them guys that can sit down, like Ridinger, sit down and go, okay, play a few bars. And he's like, okay, I got it.
Yep.
That's Dave.
Yep.
Jay and Vern, I mean, we know. Chris can play, any bass player that can play along with them two fucking knuckleheads.
I can't.
Chris was never a bass player that kind of went and off and did a bass line.
No.
He
was following.
Yeah.
He was a follower.
Yeah. But he could. I was the weak link. I couldn't sing like fucking Halford. I couldn't sing like Jeff Tate. No, I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Still can't. I had gone to Chris and Jay, and I go, here's how I'm feeling. I go, I think that if there's any time for this band to get a fucking record deal, it's right now. It's without me, though. I go, you guys, there's got to be a singer around here. I mean, there's probably 10 of them. I mean, fucking, even in town. Lance King.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's numerous guys that are freaking vocally proficient that can sing Dream Theater or whatever.
Right.
Or whatever style our band.
Lance was so huge at the time, people from other countries were like, here, just sing on our stuff.
Yeah.
And he would guest vocal on this album and this album and this album.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, so you actually told them.
I said, I go, I don't want to hold you guys back. I go, I know what you four are capable of with the right singer. I said, I will gladly step away. And you guys can fucking go with it and run with it.
Now, was this after the tour down south? Was this a year later, 2 years later?
It might have been after the second tour out to LA. But I remember Chris was like, what are you fucking talking about? I'm like, well, I think I pretty much explained what I'm talking about is you guys are a fucking great unit with the right singer. There's nowhere you can't go. And he's like, you're out of your mind. He goes, it's your band. He goes, it's your fucking band. He goes, everybody comes to see you. I'm like, Chris, you're missing the point here. I go, yeah, everybody comes to Ryan's and the Pain Reliever to see me. I go, they could be coming. It's just like any band.
Yeah.
We don't know how many bands languish. They're a good band and they got great players, but there's one guy in the band that's fucking,
yeah.
And all of a sudden a record label just goes, no, this is the guy that you need. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's Pantera.
Well, that was also, so Pantera was
right?
one of those, from what I understand too, Linkin Park was that way.
Yeah.
Chester Bennington was brought in by a manager and boom.
Yeah.
I hear it.
So that's, both him and Jay were just like, you're out of your mind. Wow. You're not quitting the band. I said, and I believe I was crying at the time because I didn't want to, but I thought it's selfish for me to fricking hold these guys back because I knew the talent that them four had that I didn't think I didn't know. I wasn't holding up my end of the bargain.
Could go back to that root.
Plus probably Jay, I might have been feeling like, I'm fucking him, by me being me, I'm fucking him.
It could go back to like we were talking about. Music gave you everything you wanted, but it wasn't the most important thing.
Yeah.
Jay, music was it.
Yeah.
So maybe you felt that at that moment and were like, okay.
Well, there was a lot of times, John, that over the years that I had asked myself the question, Scott, how big do you want to get? You want to get Michael Jackson big? You want to be able to fucking not leave your house? You want to be able to not go get a movie or, what? How far are you willing to go for fame and fortune or whatever?
Do you want to have to move into the middle of Wisconsin to a lake community?
I told myself, I said, I don't want that kind of fame. I'd rather, have 15 people pat me on the back than 150 million.
I appreciate when people recognize me and say thank you for this or that, but I also appreciate that it doesn't happen every day all the time.
Yeah.
So I can understand what you're saying there too. I mean, believe me, I would love to play music and only play music and live a good life playing music.
Well, join Hairball.
I don't have the image. And by the way, they have an amazing lineup right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian HBK he's awesome.
Yeah.
Love him to death. All of them, really. Great thing.
My thing was with them was you got this mass amount of people coming to see you everywhere.
Yeah.
Write a fucking song. You okay?
Probably could.
I know you like making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. How would you like to make millions and millions and millions? I guess if it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter.
I mean, look, Steel Panther did that.
Yeah.
They started out as metal school doing kind of what the Hairball guys are doing, and then they turned around and made it. It's still a shtick for them, but they wrote some albums.
I mean, when you think about it, okay, so Hairball does a show, and they get, well, let's just say 10,000 people a show. Let's just say, throw that number out there. And usually I would guess them 10,000 people in Fort Lauderdale and them 10,000 people in Detroit or them 10, wherever they play are probably the same 10,000 people. Not, I mean, I'm sure they get different fans.
Yeah.
But their fan base is kind of like the repeat, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta go see Hairball, you know.
Yep. Seen them 12 times, they're great.
Yeah. So if you wrote a few songs and put out a CD, none of them 10,000 are going to buy that fucking thing for $20 or $15.
Buy it in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah. They're your fans.
Yeah.
Give them something.
Yeah.
No,
I always looked at it as like, you know, when I look at a musician, I'm like, you're a musician. And don't just be the guy that reads the book. Write the book. You know?
Yeah.
And so that was just to clear the air about the Hairball thing.
Yeah.
I got nothing against them guys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in cover bands now. I have not written a song in now a year and a half. And believe me, it hurts. I love being creative. I love writing.
You've written quite a few songs.
I've written a few.
Yeah.
I've done a few. A couple albums. There's some up on the wall over there. But yeah.
I noticed they're not gold.
No. Well, one's yellow. Does that count?
We'll go with yellow.
We'll go with yellow. It's kind
what benchmark is that? 4 sold?
That was the metal. What was that? That was the Moshing Pit. Yeah. We were on there together.
Yeah.
Yeah, good old Squiggy. I'll let you in on a little note. Squiggy, back in the time, Squiggy had bands pay to be on that. He didn't have the regime pay to be on it because he just wanted you on there.
Oh, he was fucking whoring out our name, wasn't he?
And he did not have Avalanche pay to be on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
But my understanding was quite a few of the other bands had to pay to get on there. So I felt really like, I've made it.
Yes.
I was asked to be on this compilation. I didn't have to give him a dime. So the regime fades out. Jay leaves. You guys still go for another couple of years, more than a couple.
Yeah, we went
Vern.
We went, just 4-piece for a while. And it was just, boy, the wind just came out of the sails. And it was nothing against Vern. It was just, you know, when you go from 2 guitars for so long, and then all of a sudden, you know, he goes into a lead and the whole rhythm section just drops out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So what was the conversation of bringing a guitar player back in? And why was a Wally? I kind of figured that.
I think it was basically just to fulfill the whole last half a dozen last shows had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
I was willing to put it to bed years, you know, ago.
Right.
It was Chris that was driving the whole thing. Chris was living out west, and he'd call and go, "Nate, we got to do a show." He'd go, just, you know, Chris was one of the hands-off guys, you know. "Nate, we got to do another show. Hey, you figure everything out and just let me know."
Tell me the date, I'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got to pay for my plane.
Yeah, Chris, you just hang out there, and we'll take care of everything in here, setting up a venue. Shirts. Would you want your face on the shirt? You know.
Oh my God. It became a production.
Yeah.
He just put the bug in your ear.
Oh, that's, I'll just plant the seed. So, yeah, all the last shows were Chris. He wanted to come into town to do a show, and all right, we'll fly you in, fucking,
Yeah. I remember Noose Fest where TNT played with you guys. And at that time, I was making T-shirts in my basement because my cousin Mark had brought this 4-stage screen print machine into my basement. So I'd have T-shirts. I'd create the screen. I'd make shirts. So Wally was going to have his first show with you guys as the second guitar player.
Yeah.
Learned all of Jay's leads. I made him a huge shirt that said, I'm not Jay.
I remember it.
I
thought it was badass.
I was like, that's the shirt. You got to wear that. I'm not Jay.
Nothing like a perfect shirt to say, don't be mad at me.
Right?
I know I'm not Jay. Fucking Wally's a shredder, though. I'll tell you. That guy can play.
He, well, again, very first lessons from Todd Salmonson back in the day at Rock Guitar Center. And he never stopped. I remember when we first came about, it was 92, I think, when Avalanche formed. We played this party up on Suburban behind the Taco Bell in the apartment complex in their party room. And it ended up being like 16 kegs, 300 people, late October snow. And we played that and we're like, we need to play somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then we opened for you guys a few times. And then we were lucky enough to build that relationship and start headlining our own shows there and everything. And so that was the start. The regime gave me and Wally a start in music.
Yeah.
And we went and ran with it and latched onto you guys for a while.
So I should probably be getting some kind of commission out of that?
Well, you can get, 10% of nothing. Because I didn't get nothing.
Well, let me do the math on that one. I was going to say about, Wally, the fucker can play. What is he fucking dicking around with fucking, good God, you can play like that and you're going to play fucking grunge?
So let me put out to you this.
I know you guys probably make money and shit when, the TNT and...
I'll tell you where some of it came from. When Avalanche ended, he had formed a band with some other guys, and the drummer at that time was good, but wasn't soup.
Yeah.
And I remember him coming over to my house every now and again and be like, I'm so fucking sick of this. I mean, I'll just fucking do AC/DC. Somebody can play 4/4.
Yeah.
And I thought he was joking. And another year passes and let's do an AC/DC tribute.
What's he got going now? The fucking boy club or something?
He's doing Bad Bromance.
Bad Bromance.
Which is, it sounds very...
Lady Gaga?
It's all the chick rock from the 2000s and such, but played with Wally on guitar. So the keyboards aren't there. It's now guitar. It's I went and saw
a
show.
A guy singer
that could pull it off. And it's like a metal version of Lady Gaga or something like that. So it's pretty interesting. They don't play that often. But the reason that he got frustrated, he would write to this extreme and he didn't have people behind him that could pull it off with him.
Yeah.
So he said...
So he had to slow down.
He slowed down.
So he had to put training wheels on.
Yeah. When we first lost our rhythm player in Avalanche, we went 4-piece for a while. And he was like excited because I remember him telling me once, he goes, it's like somebody took the governor off. I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah. And
I don't have to worry about showing somebody or them being able to play it. So there was a little bit of that. I think he got to a point where maybe like Jay, it's like, you get to a point and then there's nobody else there to get you to the next level and you start to slow down, now I tried to get him to come to see Testament with me the other week and he's working. So now he's working all the time.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to talk about, Mr. Yauch?
Well, the last question is what's next?
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably go in your bathroom again and take about 15, 20 minutes to freaking cut a whiz. You get 60 years old and it's freaking... John, it's coming.
It's only 7 years away from me.
It's coming.
only 7 years away.
So, what mall are you at?
Oh, the rock and roll Santa. He waited 2 hours for that.
I was going to show up with a fucking Santa Claus hat and say, hey, you dropped this out in this. This must have dropped out of your sleigh there.
Listen, man, when you have as many chins as I do, it's nice to throw on a little covering. Well, Mr. Yauch, I thank you so much for coming.
It was a great time.
It was awesome. I mean, honest to God, when we talk about this, again, like I didn't say it when we were on air earlier, but when I listen to The Regime now, it made me think about all the music that I loved when I was growing up. And I wanted to know about what you loved when you were growing up. Learning about Kiss, learning about Chicago, learning about Dare Force being the guys you looked up to when you first came out. I mean, that's stuff that I wanted to know that I never knew. You know, so
John, to be honest with you, I probably got about another 2 hours with the show.
I know, and this is going to be the longest podcast I've ever done. Even after I had it.
I only come up maybe once every couple months though.
Let's do it again.
And I just got a haircut this weekend, so I won't be back for the back injection. That might be happening sooner than I thought.
Oh my God! Especially after walking up and down my stairs.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Well, let's do this again sometime, and we'll go into a deeper pull of like your teenage years or a deeper pull of the Regime years.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Scotty. Love you, man.
Love you too.